As a former science teacher, I learned that it's really important for students to be able to read and write in the language of science.
With college professors and people that I talk to, I often hear back that students can't write. They say students can't write, students can't look at data when they get to college.
So reading and research comes into play across the entire gamut of what we do. Most engineers like to go into engineering because of the science and the math. We're good at those type of things, but writing and reading is a huge part of what we do, and they don't really focus on that as much in school.
We needed to find out how literacy is being used in the real world by scientists and engineers, and determine how to best integrate that into the classroom.
So we saw the need for scientists and engineers to inform what we're doing in the classroom so that students are prepared.
The way we started was we actually got to go meet with scientists and engineers at Battelle to ask them this very simple question. What reading and writing do you do as part of your job in science or engineering on a daily, weekly, monthly basis?
They contacted some engineers as well as some different scientists and started asking us, like, what do we really do in our daily life, and how does that differ from what you learned in school?
Bringing scientists from Battelle, partnering them with high school teachers, and taking that real world aspect of work and bringing it right into the science lab is something you don't find everywhere.
We had the opportunity from Battelle to meet with Battelle scientists to actually think more like engineers, because we're teachers every day, so we don't necessarily think like engineers do.
When we met with the scientists, we actually discovered a really interesting thing. Engineers do a design process, but embedded in the design process is actually controlled experimentation. And then when we learned about controlled experimentation, we learned that actually data analysis is embedded within controlled experimentation. That's where the idea came up for the Battelle LDC science modules to have kind of a 1, 2, 3 process where you would start with data analysis, and once students can analyze data, then they can do controlled experimentation. And once they can do controlled experimentation, then they can do a very rigorous design process.
So the difference really is that the teachers were doing this work anyway, in terms of they were doing experimentation, they were doing research, but nobody was teaching the students how to write about it effectively.
Experience real world, authentic learning, and be able to share what they've learned, communicate what they've learned effectively in a more enriched and enhanced way.
The ability to write with exactness is essential to the ability to think scientifically. And that's why I love providing students the opportunity to not only think scientifically, but to write scientifically.
So not only are they teaching the students how to write about what they've done, they're teaching it in a scaffolded context. They're saying, this is what we're going to do, this is why it matters, here's how we're going to communicate that to everybody.
What the Battelle LDC science modules accomplish is they scaffold the process for both teachers and students to be successful reading and writing in the language of science.